How are you feeling now? Sort of now we're a month removed, aren't we, from the spine race now, and obviously a few people sort of made the comment of fourth time lucky, but it isn't about luck, is it? It's not about luck. It's about what is it about?
There's a lot of preparation and hard work that goes into winning the spine. It's, you could say there's a lifetime of skills and development and fitness, that's got me to the stage of entering the spine in the first place. So it's not just about luck, although there is always an element of jeopardy in racing in the mountains, in the environment. You can see what the type of terrain we're running over. It just takes one lapse of concentration and then you can have a race-ending injury. So, there is an element of luck, but most of it is around being prepared for it, or putting yourself in the best possible position to create your own luck, to have that chance of reaching the finish line. And in my case, with the aspirations to try and win the race, it's just layers and layers of specific practice and training, and putting that all together come January each year.
Do you feel like those 3 years that ended in DNF were just all now on reflection, now the fourth time when it happened, do you feel like they were all part of the process and needed to happen? Or obviously, would you have been happier if it had happened sooner, obviously, but do you feel like there's some things happen for a reason, and it made the result even more sweeter on the fourth go, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there is an element of using each one as a learning process to get better, to improve something, to take something forward, to come back, and then what elements can I add? How can I improve? So viewing it as a process, as a that not making it so black and white of I've succeeded or I failed is really helpful. To see it as part of a journey of development and challenge and growth always is I think a real better way to see things in the mind. So yeah, would I be delighted to have done it first time? Of course. Would it have made it feel as good as it did to have overcome as many obstacles? Probably not. Each year has made it, built it as a harder challenge, as something that's more rewarding when you finally do unlock that potential and succeed. It's when we have really, really hard things and we overcome them that we get the biggest joy. And for me, that part of that process of failure at the spine really helped me to get an incredible feeling of achievement at the end. The big smile that I love to do, and hence why I do hard things. And in the running field, because I just love running and the flow of moving through the mountains. So yeah, it was great to be able to finally do it.
So Kim, what trail are we on now?
Well, we're kind of heading from my local doorstep towards Bowscale Fell, and I guess for me it's about an hour's fell run for me.
Yeah. So this is straight from your door, isn't it?
Straight from the door. Half a kilometre of a bit of road to get to the bottom of the fell, and then it's pretty much steep hiking climb to get up onto the ridge, and then a nice gradual ascent to the top of the fell, and just makes a nice 60-minute fell run.
Yeah.
For training. So, or I can extend it over to Blencathra and make it a, say, 90-minute fell run if I choose.
So how do you use this local trail then? How did you use it as part of your spine race training?
I guess it just generally quite often makes up my bulk of volume, easy volume from the door, or steady running where I just get out and enjoy the hill, and just practice over the terrain. And I mean, often if you come the other way and come down the descent route, you know, there's great technical skill training. You know, I think there's a lot to be said about that repeated training of over the rough terrain, over the steep descents, that puts in a lot of the skill element for running over spine-like terrain, and to give you that kind of confidence and to be able to relax and save energy when it is tough going, when it is technical down some of the paths, that you then save some of that energy for the uphill. Also there's the element of, you know, that mix of steep hiking and various gradients for running, so there's always that practicing of transitions and then different modes of locomotion, which is important for the spine. So you get a mix of, right, I need to hike now, or actually I can run this bit. So it's
Ideal, really.
Yeah,
perfect.
So just thinking then about this year, I know you sort of were quite open with your preparation for this year and sort of thinking about how things had gone in previous years. This year you really focused on the reasons that you had to succeed, and part of that process was literally writing confidence down on a piece of paper. If you just hold it up so we can see there. So talk us through sort of the reasonings behind doing this. Is this something that you do for every race, or was it something that you just specifically did for this year?
No, I guess this is probably the first time I've formally done it on a piece of paper and gone, what do I need to do in this sort of format? I remember sitting last year having an interview, not with yourself but with Jamie, before the Fine, and just thinking and sitting there feeling confident that I didn't feel nerves to be on the start line, ready to race. I was ready to race. I felt I had the skill set. I was full of confidence at that point. And I thought, yeah, that's how I want to feel at the start again in 2026. So, part of the process of the whole year was building up the skill set that was going to give me the confidence that this time round again, but with the extra knowledge that I had from the previous year. So it was kind of, what do I need to do to have confidence when I sit down and write it on a piece of paper a week or two before the start of the Spine, and to actually do it at the end of the process of the whole year of putting the plan together in January after the race in 2024, to then actually going down to go through the whole list of why I should be confident, sitting in an interview with Sam before the Spine in 2025. And so that just went, right, I've got a whole A4 sheet of things why I should be confident on this start line, why I can go after this race and try and race it for the win, despite having not completed it the 3 previous years. Because it would be very easy to go the other way with 3 failures, to start to question your self-belief. So I needed to even more have that stronger sense of confidence and belief to be able to turn up on the start line and to race it like I did for a 4th year in a row. A lot of people maybe wouldn't turn up, wouldn't challenge a 4th time, or would change their strategy to go, well, I've just got to finish this. Let's start super easy, not worry about the front of the race, and what is what is. But I didn't want to do that. And so I had to create a powerful self-belief and a reaffirmation that I did have the skill set to do that. And so this was just kind of that end process of, no, I've done the work. This is why. Go believe in yourself, like you have done the last 3 years, and keep dreaming. And that was a really useful tool to do that. So that was why I did it, and pulled it together.
So first decent hike. What can we see from this trail then, Kim?
Just in the background we've got Bow Scale Summit, just sort of through the gap.
Yeah.
And then over here we've got Bannerdale Crags, and then just in the background is the shoulder leading up to Blencathra.
Yeah, got you.
And then the near is Suter Fell, which is also my local small fell.
Do you hold all the crowns on those
No. No, there's some quicker younger runners now coming in and stealing all my crowns. even the descent ones, which is a shame, but
records are made to be broken.
Records are made to be broken.
Yeah. So.
And I haven't got quite as young a legs to be able to try and reclaim them anymore. That's why I go for 200 miles plus. I haven't got the legs to last.
But yeah, I'm sure you're pretty happy with the way the spine went this year.
Oh, yeah.
On an understatement.
Understatement. More than delighted with how the spine went and how it all came together with that performance.
Yeah.
To be finishing the way I did, and to hold on for the win against some really strong competition, was very, very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely the accumulatory effect of 4 years of trying, and that build-up of delayed gratification, and for it to always come together made that even more special.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was super delighted with the time, considering what we went through in those first couple of days.
Yeah.
So
the weather was against you, wasn't it, to begin with?
Well, I got to say the weather, more the ground conditions, I'd say. But yeah, just having that snow that made it slow on day one, and then the melting slush and water and the bogs that came with that made it very, very tough going, energy consuming. So to pull out a 82-hour time, I was, if it wasn't from last year, that would have been the course record.
Yeah, oh absolutely.
So, it was great to have that in my mind. So yeah, very, very delighted how it went.
Because the psychology of it, having those 3 years before where it didn't happen, you could be forgiven for coming back to it the 4th time and going, well, I'm going to do it completely different. So I heard a quote. Was it your mum that said to you, slow down and finish? Was it?
Every year my mum tells me, well, why don't you just slow down and why don't you just finish it? And
as simple as that.
And that is not just my mum. It's I hear that a lot, and it's the common well, he's just going to blow up again. And I kind of knew in my head that even last year I knew that it wasn't a blow up, that it wasn't me ending up in a sickness or a I'm really just lack of energy, kind of a typical, oh, I've pushed this too hard and blown up kind of feeling. I know what that feels like. I've done it enough times to know when I have blown up. So it's kind of like, no, I know this can work for me. It's just managing the variables right and getting the jigsaw pieces together to pull it off. And so it's just having that internal self-belief and knowing yourself, what you're capable of. What we have to remember is that prior to the spine, there's a whole long history of competition, of being very competitive over 100-mile races, that I can race them, that I can win 100-mile races, that I have just come off a set of breaking fell records around COVID. So I have this stack of results and confidence in my ability to perform at the highest level, that I am there to compete with the best in the game. Yeah, I'm taking it to a new distance, beyond 24 hours. But you go further back, I have a history of racing multi-day expedition races. So skill set of sleep deprivation and self-management tools are all there from that. The discipline is that I'm not changing from running to biking to things. So, it's not that much of a leap of faith if you've done an 8-day race to be able to do a 3 to 4 day race, in terms of, I knew I could do the distance. I knew I had the belief to finish the race even before doing the first one. So I was always there to compete, to get the best out of myself.
So there's been a bit of talk online about the kit list, which is obviously extensive, isn't it, for the spine? What are your views on the stuff that we have to carry?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is really important. If you have an emergency, you have an accident, and you're out, your core temperature, as we skate around on the ice now, the micro spikes are an important part of the kit list.
Yes.
For these particular reasons. Same as, you twist an ankle, you have to stop. So you can see value in a sleeping bag, a mat, a bivy bag. But, choices are like, does the bivy bag have to be reusable and full on get one? Maybe not. You probably could get away with a sole one if we're talking emergency use, and that's when you're going to use it. There's some things like, for me, a stove. In emergency, I'm not going to be using a stove. In reality, how long are you going to be away from getting emergency support in the UK on the Pennine Way? We're talking hours, we're not talking days or a long extended period. A stove for a hot drink is a comfort thing. It should be kind of, if maybe you should carry one if you want to, but not you have to.
Yeah.
So I think there's things that can cut expense, that can make it, for those that are trying to race it and run, the more weight you add in, the more joy it takes out of the running process.
Yeah.
To some degree.
And probably a little bit of chance of more injury as well when you carry more weight.
And load, and it's, things like a poo shovel. Why do you need that? The doggy bags would have done the job.
Yeah. When the ground's frozen.
When the ground's frozen, it's you don't have to have that to complete the job.
And nice to have.
And nice to have a few poo bags that does the job, and they're really light to carry.
Yeah.
It's just, I think.
Do you think that it's almost like dumbing us down a little bit by making us carry everything instead of us making decisions on what we should carry?
Yes, I think so. You know, it's that choice of waterproof, being able to make that decision that actually this first leg's going to be blue and sunny all the time. Day 3 and 4, well, not so good, but I've got my 3-layer Gore-Tex in my kit bag ready for day 3 and 4. You know, being able to make sensible choices about the conditions and the environment in, I think it's an important part of being in the mountains and competing at races like the Spine.
Yeah.
So I think there is a better balance to be had between, okay, what's dictated and versus what's using your own mountain knowledge and craft to do it. You know, food. If you don't carry enough food for your race, that's your own silly fault, really. And if you run out of energy, you know, you could mandate, right, you've got to have a few hundred calories of emergency rations for that scenario where you do crash and burn or get it wrong, but you don't have to mandate that you must carry X amount of calories. I think that's part of planning your race to do that. You know, you must have this in this amount of calories, and that's just treating you as a child. And what do you do when you're treated like a child? You respond like a child. Either you play the stupid child and don't think for yourself, or you have a tantrum. And you see that all the time. You know, it's heckling my things now, thinking about it, bringing up that raw emotion of I'm not being treated as a experienced ultra runner doing the Spine to think about what's necessary and what's not.
Do you think it would make sense that the kind of, you know, because of the level of skill that you need to do the Spine, surely it would be more in line with the race for you to sort of make those decisions about kit? But then I suppose they view it as a safety thing, don't they? But
yeah, I think in the UK there is a fine line between having a kit list that, you know, for the people that will cut every corner that they can to make sure that we've set out a boundary that they've got, so if it comes to the coroner's court they can go, they had this X amount of kit. But I still think the Spine has gone too far the other direction. Yeah, I think there's more of a middle ground to be balanced, where we're treated more like adults with opinion around some kit, but then just reflecting on actually what is essential and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
People may have sort of looked from the outside and that don't know your history with adventure racing and thought, well, he's clearly a good 100-mile racer, but he can't go do the long stuff. But you've had years and years, haven't you, of being out on your feet on multi-day races, haven't you? So
yes,
that part of the scenario, that bit of the jigsaw, you knew that you could do, but you wanted this other part of the jigsaw, which was the speed element, to come in.
Yeah,
and that was the thing that was different.
And not, I guess, the speed element and it being singular sport, that you've not got the change of action and muscle groups that acts as a break up to the pounding of continuous running or hiking action. So that was probably the biggest difference, and having the body and the mechanics to be able to cope with that extra load of fatigue at the speed that I wanted to be able to tackle it. But it didn't scare me that it was 3-day race or 4-day race or 5-day race. You know, when you know, I've been to the pit of the well over, I remember quite vividly my first adventure race world championships, which was in France through the Alps. And I remember being in a very, very dark place on day 6 of having to have pulled a colleague by a bungee to make the final cut-off to be able to do the last leg, and just then relying on my teammates to get me through the last day. I have no remembrance of much of that last day until we reached the final paddle and reaching the finish line. So I know what it takes to do sleep deprivation, to do the duration, to get through dark places,
push yourself
and push myself in that realm, and at a high level. So that's kind of gives you a bit more of, okay, this is why I would tackle it this way each time, and have that inner confidence in myself to run it from the front, to tackle it in this manner. And this process of reflecting on what are all the things you've done in the past year, and let alone the past decade, to go, right, yeah, last year I was 90% of the way there. This time I think I've got a good chance to be on that start line to race for the win. I mean, and I would have been just as happy to come top 5 if I'd pulled the best race I could have done on the circumstances and shot for the stars. I kind of liken it to, for me, racing at Lakeland this year, that racing with Mark, Gavin, Sam, we all pushed ourselves to be better athletes on that day because of the competition. I knew that on that day I had given my best. Coming third, I was delighted. I pulled out the best performance I could on that day, and I lost to 2 better athletes in that race on that day. And as a result, we run the 3 of the fastest times in the history of that race. So part of it is that, have I given my best within my abilities, having done all the work previously?
So if you sort of imagine the scenario of last year, and if you didn't have that knee injury, did you feel sort of like you were better prepared last year to have done what you did this year, but if it had not been for the injury?
Yeah, no, I felt like I was 90% there last year in terms of my fitness was absolutely superb. I was executing a really great race that year for me. I was feeling good, moving well, the ground was brilliant, and I was in the lead. So it's kind of making your way to that checkpoint in Langton Beck and thinking, okay, I'm in a good place here to get in, get a sleep, to move on to the back half of the course.
Yeah.
But yeah, to break down a few miles before then was really kind of frustrating. In that sense, it was kind of you reflect on it, you go, what if I didn't break down? What could I have done? Could I have been there challenging Jack at the end? Maybe not, because what he did on the back half of that course was sensational.
Yeah.
To keep that level going all the way to Kirkghetto, but it always will be one of those in the back of your mind, how would have that played out?
Yeah, what if?
But we can all do those at different times, so I don't try and lose too much energy on it.
Yeah. What if he hadn't moved the checkpoint from Middleton to Langdon Beck?
Yeah, but I think that year I would have broken down at some point.
Yeah.
Because of the injury.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
So it was inevitable. It wasn't there. Would it be another 10 miles, 20 miles? Would it have been Bellingham and further damage? So all in all, it was fantastic learning for me to come back this year and really have that extra motivation and knowledge of, okay, if I can do it well, 90% well last year, why can't I do the same again this year, but without the injury?
Yeah.
So that was always a big thing in the back of my mind of, I can, this strategy of running from the front and leading like I've tried the last 3 years, yes, it can work for me, so let's try it again. And that takes a lot, rather than to change the strategy. I remember joking, with John at the, probability suggests that one of these times it's got to work. And it finally did work. So
when we look at that list of that you made surrounding confidence, which when you look at it now, which parts of all the things you listed on there, what were the most important aspects of that list then? Was it a case of just putting down and seeing how much you've achieved over the year, or was there specific things on there that mean more to you with regards to giving you the confidence to go into the race and run it the way that you wanted to?
Yeah, I guess there's a sequential stage to it. I mean, the first one was kind of unlocking the failure point. What was the crux point that made me fail? It was a specific injury in the knee, which was a biomechanical issue. So it was, right, I need to do the work to make adjustments to make sure I've got good, better biomechanics to be able to have pain all over rather than pain in one isolated spot. So doing the work early with a physio that could identify, okay, here you are, here's your movement problems, here's your balance problems, these are areas and some exercises, you work on those, you work on these cues when you're running, could really help. So the early part of the year was about that specific work on that weakness, and then testing it in ultra race scenarios. So early races, South Downs Way, Felsman were critical points of testing that specific strength and physio conditioning to, can I do it in race format, and to get success in those formats. In distances I know I can race, I can finish without the work or not, but to actually get, okay, this is moving in the right direction, I can see progress here, so that was built confidence early in the season that I could then take that to a later in the season, to take it to a 200-mile race at Swiss Peaks, which I specifically chose as, this is a monster. If I can finish this monster in the mountains in September, then I can finish the spine. There's no question about it that I've done the ascent, I've done something hard of equivalence. I guess I took Swiss Peaks because it's lower in my mind in level of competition compared to taking it to Tour de Gent. So I could take an element of competitive level out of it. So I don't have to put my chimp into it. I could just focus in on racing it to my ability and not so worried about where I came, other people's races, that the ultimate goal was finish this. And so that early work led to that piece that built on, right, I have the body to finish the distance. I've proven it to myself. Okay, that's fine. I can go with that confidence to the big block. then it's actually what other layers I need to get better than I was previously. Everyone's getting better. What other things are going to give you confidence on terms of, how to get fit, what training block you've got to do, but what's the extra percentages now competing with a deep field of competitive 200-mile runners that everyone's training better and learning from science. So it's was doing the little things now, adding in heat training from the middle of the summer right and through to the spine, getting that sauna time adds in a little percentage of, I've done that little bit extra, making sure that you're continuing with the strength and conditioning that you have learned that works for you over the previous several years that have been in a key in the 90% success, keeping doing that work. Another thing that was crucial was around the DNF story, because in that 2-year period where I hadn't worked out that medication was causing a lot of the problems, from suddenly being able to break records to suddenly having a lot of failures due to muscular problems. It wasn't until I put 2 and 2 together that problem started once I started on the medication. But I had suddenly now got a story in my part of my brain that was influential, that it was okay to quit, to DNF. But my chimp had now had a story that it could use when things got hard, and it wasn't the right choice. I'm always happy when I've made a choice to back my decision with the DNF, and a lot of them I'm still very comfortable with them. But there was an element of the spine's hard, there's dark moments. You've got to be able to make the decision to be able to get through that dark point. So crucial to me for this year was when it gets hard in races, when you've pushed the limit and you don't really have an excuse not to finish anymore other than it hurts or you're not as competitive as you want to be, that the race has gone away from you, that I still could choose to suffer and finish and start changing my script so that when I got to the spine, I had a run of success, that my chimp, although it would scream at me that you've got that as an option to DNF, I had the other script now to go, hang on a minute, you can get through these hard points. It hurts, yes, it's tough, but here's the other side of the coin. So yes, the first race back, South Downs Way, gave me the perfect opportunity. I went off way too hard on a runnable course, probably at more marathon effort for a 50 miler, chasing the incredible evergreen Dan Lawson. And I remembered actually properly blowing up, and going, well, but because I had decided I was going to change the script, I made sure I suffered and did all the things I needed to do to keep going and finish the race. Yeah, it wasn't the performance I hoped for or expected, but I, reaching the track, it was still a smile moment because I had still achieved a partial success, and that started the ball rolling in that process for the rest of the year. And I mean, I guess I'd had that same dark moment midway through Swiss Peaks where my quads were screaming at me. I was coming down a 2,000 meter descent, getting close to the end. It was middle of the second day. It's super hot, and I'm just my brain screaming at me as I can't see how I'm going to do another 2-3 days of this when I'm in this much pain. But that momentum of where I was trying to take it, and developing that skill set of, right, how do I get out of this chimp mind? How do I give my space to my logical brain to come up with a solution that allows me to change my mindset from being in the emotive response to, I can work through this problem. Here's a bit of a solution to it. And actually doing that in the middle of Swiss Peaks, getting through it, suffering, reaching the end, built up the confidence ready for the spine when that dark moment hit, which it did. And I think that was a critical part of that piece that I did last year, during the last year, to do that.
Was that dark moment, was that sort of Langdon Beck when you got
for me it was Langdon Beck. I mean, I was having serious dark thoughts of, I can't see how I'm going to get through this with these legs, kind of thought processes of DNF was, you know, I was thinking about how do I justify this for a fourth time, almost in tears, in a sense that, yeah, you know what I mean? I went to that physio, the doctor going, yeah, I can't see a way through this. But it was also a opportunity for me to reach out for support, to reach for help, to help give space to find a solution, which luckily a couple of ideas gave my brain a couple of solutions to latch onto, as well as me having that nuance to go, right, I'll try those things, plus I'll just sleep some more, give myself some more space. And those things of trying to take some more electrolytes, getting some more sleep, trying a bit of rolling, all gave me the mental space to shift from, I can't see a way to this, to, right, let's get out this door, let's see. At that point, my head had gone from trying to win the race specifically to, I've got to try and work through this to get to the finish, no matter what. Luckily for me, in that whole process of the 3.5 hours, I think it was, at Langdon Beck, potentially, but I still ended up leaving in the lead. And after a kilometre and finally going, actually, the legs are working, they're fine. And still being in that strong position with 3.5 hours of rest, and now the legs are sorted, you know, put me back in the game, and as the psychology of, right, race is still on. But it was a lot of that was having developed and thought about what I need to do to get through the race, and taking learning from Swiss Peaks about how others raced these races. You know, that element of, for me, I can't necessarily race well like Jack Scott did. I need probably to have more sleep to be able to race that hard and to keep racing hard all the way to the finish. Hence why I talked to you early after Swiss Peaks about that, and then actually, you know, it was always in the back of the mind, would I actually be able to do it at Hawes? And I don't think I actually knew until I actually got there whether I would. What made it more possible this year to apply that and try it was, yes, I was in the lead on my own, but it was that differential from last year, knowing that I was over 2 hours behind the time I got towards the year before, and feeling a lot more works than I had done for that time that I got towards. It was kind of, if I continue, by the time if I'm trying to push through to Langton Beck, I've got to change something here.
Just finally then, what does it mean to you that you've won, that you've invested all this time, all these years into this race to do it the way that you wanted to do it, and you've done it that way? What does it mean to you?
What it means, it just means that I got that moment of feeling that pure joy, feeling that, getting that opportunity to have that moment. And it is, for me, a lot of it is about the journey and that process of being able to complete this epic journey through nature and wilderness, that I just enjoy being out in that environment and journeying through it. And that element that it's hard, that it's not easy, that you've got to overcome obstacles, that it's also years of process of working hard and unlocking how do I get better, that it all comes out in that singular moment, that that all that process has happened. And that's for me is what it really means, is that I've done something really hard that I feel accomplished, that I'm proud about. And the more that builds up, the more you set new targets to go, okay, how do I recreate that feeling of accomplishment? What is the adventure or the journey that I enjoy doing in the sport that I can apply a process to, that's a challenge, that's hard, to then get that feeling. And I guess the spine was a great vehicle for that, in terms of I get to compete, I get to be pushed and share that journey with similar people trying to do the same thing in an environment that's tough, but I've trained for it, but I really enjoy being in. And so the spine was the perfect vehicle at the point of that career to be able to, for all those things to come together. And having that event there is great for us, of people that love ultra running through the environment, to challenge themselves, to do that hard thing that gets that huge reward. And for me, just because of my past history, and there's an element of talent and hard work that allows me to compete at the top end of the field, but it's the same feeling for anyone that's doing hard things, whether it's your first 10k or 5k, to people that on the spine, they've worked up to being able to do a spine race and are competing against the cutoff to finish it. The reward at the end is still that same reward that we're chasing, and that feeling of accomplishment. And for me, to get that, it wasn't just finishing. That wouldn't have given me what I wanted, the buzz, the feeling that I know I can get from breaking the Lakeland 24-hour record. you know, it's that kind of replication of I've really earned this. I've done everything in my powers for that. So that's what it means to me in reality.
Yeah, that accomplishment that you've invested all that time in it, in those 4 years of going back and making it happen the way that you wanted it to happen. It's been great for us, you know, as you know, someone on the outside to see it. You coming back year after year, and to make it happen the way that you wanted it to happen. It's been a joy to watch, and appreciate, you know, you sharing your journey over the years. You know, we've had multiple podcasts over the years, and we've chatted, and I personally am just so pleased to see that you've done it the way that you wanted to do it. So well done.
Great, thank you. And it's great to try and share some of that experience and the journey, so other people can also aspire and dream and shoot for their big smiles, because that's what it is all about. It's about your personal journey. So it's great to share that.
And if at first you don't succeed, just keep coming back.
Keep coming back. Keep learning.
Right. Keep learning.
And identify where the madness is. Is it, am I going just too hard, or is it actually knowing where to put the time? You know, the outside observer would have said the madness was racing it the way I did, but I knew individually it wasn't. So it's finally great to vindicate that in some way, and roll the dice and get the 6 instead of the 1.
Well done, Kim. We appreciate you talking and laying it all out there. In, you know, it's appreciate your honesty with it all, and just showing that you know, people can achieve the things you set out to do if you're willing to be patient and keep coming back and doing things the way that you want to do it. So thanks very much.
Great.
Cheers.
Oh, this is why I love running. Being out in nature, looking at the light come sharply down onto the fell side.
How gorgeous is that?
It is. There's a smile on your face every time.